Good morning, everybody. Got a great crowd this morning. Appreciate y'all coming out. I'll probably talk a little bit louder because of the noise from cars and whatnot. But if I'm not talking loud enough, raise your hand and I'll talk even a little bit louder for as long as I can. Forget it, Senator Borelli. Let's go through a few things that's been going on in the city. Lots of continued activity since the last time we met. I believe it was since the last time we met. We did sign the contract to begin building the road and all the infrastructure to the launch ramp down at Havasu Riviera. We're continuing to move forward on that project. It's going to be a really great project. As I said last time, we actually think that the economic activity will be about $1 billion, as with a B, $1 billion over the next 10 years or so. We are working on our plans for the visit by the Lord Mayor of London. Again, expected to be here in October. We're pretty excited about that. Trying to invite as many people to that event as possible and show him what a great city that we have. For those of you who don't know why he's visiting, this is the 50th anniversary of when we purchased the London Bridge. It also happens to be the 40th anniversary of our incorporation. So he was originally going to come about this time of year, and we said, well, there's too many other things going on. October would be even better, so he's coming in October, and so we're finalizing those dates. His visit will be relatively short. He'll probably be showing up on a Friday evening, spending the entire day on a Saturday, including a reception that evening, and then headed out on Sunday morning. Right now we don't know if he's going to Mexico, which is where he was originally going to go, but now we're hearing that the Queen needs him back for some reason or another. Don't know what it is, so he may be headed back to London. Has everybody taken a look at Cypress Park? It's absolutely beautiful, isn't it? Gosh, it came out great. I got to thank Greg Frosley and his staff for all the hard work. It is absolutely beautiful. The neighbors, stay right here. The neighbors have, even as much as last night, came to me and said, God, thank you so much. It's such a great park. We love it. The view is wonderful. We're not looking at a dirt, empty lot. And I don't blame them. It is absolutely beautiful. Let's see, as you can tell, not from here, but the hotel, the Holiday Inn is moving along quite nicely. It's expected again to still be open by July, and we're hopeful. It's looking better and better every day. Now, instead of a plywood box, it looks like an insulation box. So we're making progress here, and one day they'll have stucco. And as you came by the Hampton Inn, what a great renovation that has been, and they're continuing on that. As you also noticed, you probably drove by what is now being called Color Block, where those buildings on the back side of the building, which includes the Chamber of Commerce, that building happens to be owned by the city, and hospice and several others. The museum is painting murals along the back side, making it look much, much better than before. I think now the guests can look out the window at the Hampton and see something a little nicer. So, and I thank the Partnership for Economic Development for their efforts on making sure that area looks so much better than it did before. We're currently working on budgets. Frankly, we're really not doing a whole lot different than what we had already approved a year ago. We're very cognizant of the expenditure limitation, Prop 409, that would be coming to the vote come in August. We have been working to bring educational seminars to a wide variety of groups, whether they be the Lions Club, Rotary, Kiwanis, etc., just so that everybody can understand the impact of Prop 409, the impact whether you vote yes or whether you vote no. There will be consequences, but once again, one of those consequences is not a change in taxes. This has nothing to do with taxes, and I can't be any more clear than that. If you vote no, your taxes aren't going down. If you vote yes, your taxes aren't going up. No matter how you vote, they stay exactly the same. So we just want to be able to modernize that permanent base instead of going all the way back to 1979 when that base was established by law. Let's see, just what am I forgetting? Oh, I know one of the things I wanted to say. Today, Veterans Court, graduation. 1:30. Today, we will be celebrating the graduation of our 100th graduate. So it has been phenomenal. It has changed the lives of so many veterans and their families. Judge Kalali and his staff have done a phenomenal job with that program. Very, very proud of the program. And, you know, I've said this before, the normal recidivism or return rate to court is about 75%. In our Veterans Court, it's less than 5%. So that's phenomenal. And a lot of it has to do with the program itself and how we conduct it. There are a lot of veterans courts across the United States. Ours is probably a little tougher. In many of the veterans courts, as they're going through the program, they aren't monitored. In other words, they don't have drug tests, urine tests, whatever. Ours you do. You got to stay clean the entire time that you're in the program. And what we have found is that has made all the difference in the world. And so we're doesn't mean that some of our veterans don't slip up every once in a while. We get all that, but as long as we can get them back on the right track and they graduate, their life has changed forever. So we're just thrilled that we're having our 100th graduate. Today, I think we're graduating 10 or 11, somewhere in there. So that's 10 or 11 to just today. That's really great. And I thank all the mentors. Dave, you're a mentor. We have lots of mentors that help these veterans through that program, and your service is appreciated a lot. So these are volunteer mentors. Okay, let's see, what else?
Vietnam Veterans Dinner with us, is that?
Oh yeah, Vietnam Veterans Day dinner. Boy, what a crowd. It was great. I think we had over 250 people show up. Enjoyed a spaghetti dinner. London Bridge Resort donated that dinner toward the Veterans Day, and so we're appreciative of that. We kept our speeches short, so I know the veterans were appreciative of that. And but it was a great day. It really was. We're a national commemorative partner for Vietnam Veterans Day, and Lake Havasu City, along with the other two cities, Bullhead City and Kingman, were one of the first in the nation to actually declare March 29th as Vietnam Veterans Day. And so we did that in 2008. So we have been having an event for the last decade, which is really kind of cool. But that day is also for all veterans. All veterans were welcome. And a lot of the Vietnam vets We had maps where they could put pins where they spent time in Vietnam. And we had actually a couple of pins that were in the POW camps. So I think it brought back, I don't know if it didn't bring back, well, I would say fond memories, but it certainly opened lines of communication for people to talk to each other about their experiences. So I think that's about it for updates. I think by the way, we did talk last time about the home-based business bill. I told you I would keep you updated on that, as Senator Borelli did kill that bill for all of us in the Senate. We appreciate it. But then what happens, as it always does, they ran what they call a striker, a strike everything amendment. They take a bill that isn't going to be utilized, and they inserted the language of the home-based business bill. It went into the House, passed committee on a 6-5 vote, even though I was screaming, and I wasn't screaming, I was texting as loud as I could to our representative, please vote no on this, but unfortunately she voted yes. And I'm really sorry to hear that. We're hoping when it goes back over to the Senate, it never sees the light of day, but that's going to be up, I think, to the Senate President. Is that correct? Yeah, so Sonny clearly has done his part. You know, I know I've said this before, but Sonny's one of those guys that is always getting a hold of me on bills that might affect Lake Havasu City. In fact, I got a call from the league just the other day that said, we're okay with this one bill on an amendment, we're ready to move forward, but Senator Borelli said he's not voting yes until he hears from you, and that it's okay. And you know, that's the kind of representative you want. And so I sent them a text, says, okay, with the amendment that I've read, I think we're good to go. And so thank you for that. I really do appreciate that. I wish the other two reps would do the same. They're rookies. All right, let's open it up for questions. Yes.
My name's Jim Buchholz. Been a resident here for 2 years now. Owned a home
Okay.
for 5 years. Lived here for 2. So my first question is, the police, fire, and maintenance workers in this city, they deserve a pay raise. And I'm looking out, want to keep these people, they're excellent workers. I don't want to see them going anywhere else, highway patrol, sheriff's department, anything like that. In order to keep these people, you're going to have to give them benefits and raises. And as a citizen paying taxes, I don't mind paying extra taxes to support that idea. These people are very hardworking, and the city in summertime is very, very hard to work with. And they deserve the best, and I think that we need to go ahead and give them what they deserve, and that's a raise. So,
Yeah, we evaluate raises each and every year, along with the pension plans, so that's something we do every year.
Yeah. Keeping on, what is the turnover rate? Do you happen to know on this police force?
Do you happen to know, Jess?
In terms of, we do real well in recruiting police and fire, amongst in particular. So we just did a recruitment, put a call out for testing for fire here in the last month or two, and we got more applicants than we had positions to fill. I think we ended up filling about 4 positions in fire with some of those folks that had either retired or moved on. So recruitment with police. In the past, there was some issues with regards to our ability to recruit officers to fill the number of vacant positions. This was a couple of years ago. We did a study, we did some comparisons of what other agencies charge, and we did increase the pay for police a couple of years back, and that helped us recruit some officers, so we're fully filled with all of our positions in police and fire. You mentioned police, fire, maintenance services. All of our employees of the city. I tell you what, I've been here for 3 months. We have some dedicated city employees that really want to do the right thing, that are passionate, that understand the big picture in terms of providing services to the residents. So we're in really good shape as far as the mentality and the capabilities of our staff. So it's not just in particular with those three functions of the city, but all as a whole. Of course, we have restraints in terms of budgets, in terms of elections, in terms of the expectations from our residents. We take all these things into consideration. We do what we can to make sure that we're fully staffed, providing those services. But we also have to be cognizant of the fact that we're using taxpayer dollars, to fund the staffing for the city. So anytime we're looking at turnover rates, they're small. We're talking about less than 5% in most of the departments, and certainly that holds true in police and fire.
Can I follow up with that, Mayor?
Sure.
Since when Havasu was established, it was a sleeping community, very few people here. City government was kind of something you did when you didn't have time for a nap. But this is a substantial city.
It is.
Isn't it time to consider paying the mayor and council representative wages for the work that's being done here? You only make what, $600 a month?
I make $950 a month.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm sending my kid to college
Which one?
for a day.
Isn't it time to start thinking about that, to establish a real wage for this job and for the council members?
Yeah, the council makes $650, I think, and mayor makes $950. It used to be, as you put it, a very part-time position. I spend,
Full-time job now.
oh gosh, yes, I
And
spend
beyond.
50 or 60 hours a week. But I don't disagree. Our ordinance is, and if that's something that the council decides to vote on, our ordinance makes it so that we're not giving ourselves a raise. It's the next council that gets that raise. And I'm retiring, so I frankly,
This might be the time.
This might be the time.
to consider the administration.
Correct, yeah, because I think that 950 and 650 has been in place since I can remember. So, but yeah, thank you for that. You still had another question, I know. Well, ask one more, and then we're going to go around the room.
The dog parks for the city, you have the Sarah Park has a large dog, a small dog area. How can we get that for all the dog parks? The big dogs, I have a small dog, and I will not be a dog owner as soon as he passes away, but I feel that these small dogs, they get harassed, and people don't go to these parks for small dogs because of the big dogs. So how can we get them separated?
We can take a look at that. The one down at the London Bridge Beach was actually built and donated by the Lions Club. It's a fairly small area. I'm not sure that we could put something down the middle and have enough room for dogs to really run around, so we would have to figure out what to do there. It might have to stay the way it is. The other one is out at Avalon, I believe. At Avalon, is that where the other one's at? And Greg, is there even enough room to split that in two? Or
Maybe at Avalon.
yeah, so at Avalon, maybe there's an opportunity to do that.
That's fine, because I have to drive all the way to Sarah Park, and I live close to the Avalon, but I won't take it anymore. My
Sure.
dog's been harassed tonight, so
Okay, yeah, let us take a
I'll
look
let
at
some
it.
other people get some questions answered.
All right, Dave.
We've been talking about the road construction on 95, but is there anything new by Food City? Anything new on that?
Yeah, we're, I believe that's starting October, is that correct?
The stoplight on Havasu Riviera.
The Kiowa and
Oh,
95
For construction.
for that first phase.
Yeah, I'm not sure when that's scheduled to
Yeah, it's going to be done in 2 phases, and I thought that the first phase was going to be starting,
End of the year.
yeah, toward the end of this year. So, and then the second phase, I think, was going to be, assuming we get ADOT to give us the grant, would be about 2020, the second phase. So, and what we're trying to do is add medians, because we just had another accident down there. It's a very dangerous area. Yes, sir.
Garbage.
Garbage? We call those Kimmel cans.
Actually, in my neighborhood, we're pretty happy with it. You know, we had to figure out the system because all the times changed and everything. But there's been complaints. I don't complain because it hasn't happened to me yet. You originally said when they set up this new system that they would still take anything you put out.
Correct.
Well, apparently they're not. If they come along, they dump that cart, and if there's bags there, they've been left behind and not touched.
Yeah, that we've had reports on that. We've called the general manager and asked him to retrain his people, because in our contract it says they will pick up bags.
Yeah, you know, it needs a clarification because a lot of people, you read on the course thing afterwards, people really have problems with it. And I just, you know, I used to be able to put prongs out there and if you tie it together, they would take.
Still,
now they don't take huge piles. I understand that.
Right, but if you tie them up, they're supposed to take those as well. But if there is a neighborhood where that is not occurring, a specific neighborhood, email me. I'll get a hold of Matt Cross, the general manager, and make sure it's taken care of. Because I've had a couple other neighborhoods, exact same thing, and he's had to go to the drivers and say, no, the agreement is they won't pick up the old trash cans anymore, which we were led to believe that they were going to, but our contract says they will pick up bags, yard waste, etc. So just let me know of those neighborhoods and we'll make sure it gets done. Chuck.
Yeah, they'll pick up those old cans if you're throwing them away.
If you're throwing them away.
Yeah, but they won't pick them up if they have trash in it.
Correct.
Something to be.
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
Follow-up on that, recycling. I think there needs to be some clarification, some publicity about what is and what is not being put in the recycling bins. I see a lot of people putting cardboard out, and I'm unclear about whether that's supposed to be. I didn't think
It's on the top of the can.
on the top of the can, cardboard.
No, on the top of the can it tells you what you're to put in
Yeah, I
there.
know, and cardboard is not.
On the top of the can, it says cardboard is acceptable.
Yeah, it details pretty good sign on the top of the can exactly what they want in there.
If it's clean cardboard, like not pizza boxes or anything soiled like that.
Yeah, but all the Amazon boxes.
Yes.
All the Amazon boxes, exactly. Let me get some. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I was hoping to get some help from the police department. We live on Castaway, been there, so we didn't see about 6 years now.
Uh-huh.
But it's week on a couple of will be Kona and Jamaica. The speeds really pick up. And I'm not sure whether it's an adjustment to speed limit enforcement. I mean, I think that's something that I'd like to have the police department look at because people are afraid to go out, even just in the not completely off the street, but going out. Because there's a lot of curves in there.
There is.
And people naturally pick up speed. I'm not being critical if somebody picks up a little speed in there. But when they come through there quickly, faster, we can look through the streets. We end up with these kids and people on
Sure. Well, it's particularly difficult first thing in the morning because I travel that area, and there's no doubt it is. Yeah. So I'm sure Jess is. Yeah, Jess will make a note of it. I'm sure. Maybe we can put out one of those electronic signs
Radar
about
trailers.
speed. Yeah.
That would be really helpful. It would really.
In Veterans Court,
Yes.
after
do you all have to track their success after they're out of the program?
Well, the only thing we track is whether they re-enter the court system.
Okay, so how does that happen very often?
Less than 5%.
Okay.
Yeah, the normal.
After graduation.
She wanted to know if there was any tracking of the success of a veteran who's left the veteran court program, and we know if they come back.
Yeah, exactly. But there is a follow-up.
Yeah, so by the mentors? Or,
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Chuck?
Yeah, you talked about 2 stages that deal over there, like Staples and that. What's the 2 stages? Is the first stage like the intersection that they're going to put the light by Staples? What's the 2 separations of the 2? North of Kiowa, south of Kiowa?
I don't know that I've got those details on the top of my head, but
In General Mayor, the first phase, it's my understanding the first phase is going to be intersection improvements at Kiowa with an extended turn lane
right.
and medians on the highway. Phase 2 would be an additional traffic signal a little further to the north from Kiowa.
And an extension of the median.
Down to Televerty.
Yeah, exactly.
Are they putting the center divider in the first phase?
Yes.
A piece of it, not all of it.
Not all.
Right. Right. Because they want to extend it to North Palo Verde, I believe.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. The lady in the back.
I'm Pat Miller, and I've been here since 2005. This winter, I think has seen more traffic on I-95 than we've ever had before. Do you have a bypass on future plans? Because it'll end up like 101 in Southern California. You're just talking about another traffic light. I go to Needles frequently. It's taken me at least 30 minutes now to get through town.
The answer to your question is there is not a bypass planned. ADOT had considered a bypass some time ago, marked out all the areas it was going to go to, and then concluded they didn't have any money, and so there will not. Right now, there is nothing on the drawing board. The bypass would probably, I had heard up to $20 billion.
And you're projecting 90,000 here in another 20 years?
Now, probably in another 40 years. So, most of us won't have to worry about it. I'll just speak for myself.
We'll have an autonomous car then, and we'll have to worry about it.
Yeah, exactly. Good point.
This is probably more to the manager there.
All right.
My side jobs is I'm president of the City Business Hall. We've been having a real serious problem. Saturday night, store was closed. Somebody come by on our video camera, took a big concrete thing, took out a monster big one. A year ago, the furniture store, same scenario, on our cameras, came by, threw a big chunk of concrete, took out the front door, never went in. About a month and a half ago, somebody cut a hole in the fence, clothing store, got in there, got up on the roof, cut off all the wires to our cameras. And it's just been kind of a ongoing, every time the police have came, they're coming. But I think it has to do with the area of the town that we're in, maybe more the industrial area. I'm just curious, is the Salvation Army, Goodwill, Interagency, are they having them kind of problems? Because you're kind of on a main road, where people are there all the time looking, but we're just getting hammered here.
I've not heard of anything.
Yeah, sorry to hear that. I mean, that's disappointing. But yeah, I haven't heard any of those other agencies that have been affected by a similar circumstance. So you've obviously reached out to police and hopefully they've started an investigation in terms of trying to find the folks that are responsible for this.
Here over here, isn't it?
So hopefully the police.
In the last few years, I've been probably having their people with people cutting holes in the fence going in.
Okay.
Not even getting in the stores, just screwing around.
Just destroying the property.
And I've always been firmly believed if they caught any of them, if there were 2 policemen there, that one of the policemen will call the people by their first name.
Okay.
Because it usually half popped up. They come down there, want us to give them the world, and then they get all upset when they leave because get many of them because they're all drugged up and stuff. And it's an ongoing problem to the point I have told all the women down there, if these guys come in, any man or woman, they put your hands on you, you call 911.
Absolutely.
Right now.
No doubt about that.
Is happening anytime. Just want you to be
Yeah, but thanks for bringing it to my attention. I'll reach out and talk to the chief and our PD. I'm sure we're exploring every option, but we'll continue to do that. Sorry about that.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry. Is there any way in the future you could have a microphone? A microphone?
We normally don't have it outside.
The traffic is just, I haven't heard any.
Well, there's seats in here, but we
I'm
normally.
sure there's people back here that.
Yeah, we normally don't have it outside, but there wasn't room inside, so.
Okay, so in the past you've had it inside always.
Yeah, or a patio area that doesn't have all the
I mean,
traffic
it's
noise.
nice, but there's plenty of seats.
There's about 8 chairs over here.
Yep, there's plenty of chairs up here.
Can we invest in a small amplified speaker tonight?
I'd have to ask whether that's going to work on TV. So no. So that's why it wouldn't work on TV. Yes, sir.
I'm here to ask questions about the water. Also, maybe Sonny can give us an update on what's going on at the state level.
Sure.
With, the governor's supposed to sign something. What do we have to do to get more information or find out what's going on?
Well, what's your questions about water?
Well, we know that the people up in Fort Mojave are attempting to sell water.
Correct.
I guess I was at that meeting, and one of the things that wanted to believe was whatever amount of water we have, if we don't use it, it just continues to go downstream.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
How about a snake?
Yeah, the water. If we don't use the water, we don't take the extra 14,000 acre feet and put it in a tank somewhere. It goes downstream, and it either.
Why is there hell behind the dam? Why would we continue to use the water?
Saturday, somebody took out a window.
If they're not using their allotment,
Yeah, actually, it does mean exactly under water laws. That's exactly what it means.
in other words, what I'm saying is most people in the Tucson area are using water now, and they're still not content.
Well, they're supposed to only use 2.8 million acre feet. So everybody has an allotment, and you're not to go over it. So you've got Metropolitan Water District that gets 4.48 million acre feet a year. CAP gets 2.8. We get 28,000 acre feet. Various other entities along the river get so much. Whatever isn't used continues down the river. Mexico is entitled to water. So, but no, you don't. Just think, if you think about it right now, we're only using about 14,500 acre feet. You can't take that other 14,000 acre feet and store it somewhere.
Why is it even released then?
Because the river's got to flow.
It's availability to.
Yeah, it's released. It's released for everybody. The river, it's a river, and so the Bureau of Reclamation releases water as demand requires it, and it goes down the river. But the level of the lake stays relatively the same because of federal law. But you can't say, well, I get 28,000 acre feet. I'm only really, my citizens are using 14, so I'm going to take the other 14. Where would you store it?
Looks like to me there's plenty of room behind that dam up there to like me.
No, that has to be released based on the demands of Metropolitan Water District and the CAP, and then this lake has to stay at a relatively constant level. If you think about our acre feet of 28,000, that's a pittance compared to the 6.2 million acre feet of those other two entities. So yes, we have been fighting the fact that we don't want those lands to be sold off for water. That's nothing. That was nothing more than investors out of the New York area buying those lands, selling off, and then selling off the water. Courtside is trying to do the same thing.
My understanding is they already have.
Well, what they call a long-term lease. It's if it smells like a purchase, it looks like a purchase, it's a purchase.
Yeah, but Doc, Sonny, can you give us an update as to what the mayor refused, or not the mayor, the governor refused to sign, and what he's looking for?
Well, there's been several water bills that go through the legislature, and the governor's pretty much vetoed most of them because it comes down to stepping on other people's toes and stuff like that. As far as the Mojave Valley Irrigation Drainage District, the county's making a very brilliant move where they're going to purchase some land, and that actually gives them standing. That was actually a brilliant move. It's actually probably going to be cheaper than a lawsuit because that gives them standing and they have a voice on the committee or on the board. That's going to kind of mess things up a little bit for that hedge fund. But Gina Cobb and I, we've introduced bills to try to halt that. As a matter of fact, I introduced a bill that would have, in the way it was crafted, it would have had given the citizens there in Mojave Valley a seat at the table on the board. But then again, like I said, in other water districts, it opens up another can of worms. Like Yuma started screaming about it. No, that means it's a bad precedent to set. Since next thing we could be next. And I'm like, well, if we don't take care of this stuff now, you're going to be next. It's going to stop another hedge fund coming in buying up somebody's land. So there's a lot of maneuvers that go on, and we've been trying everything we can, but it looks like if the Board of Supervisors purchases some land, that's probably about the best thing that they can do to give us, because it gives the county, it gives them standings. But
water law is one of the more complex areas of law in the world. It's just unbelievable because you've got what they call real shortages, paper shortages, all kinds of different things. What we try to do is protect what we have. And we're also trying to protect the fact that there was about 165,000 acre feet allocated to river communities, and we don't want to see any of it get sold off to central Arizona. Because the problem we've got with it is that if you continue down that path, Arizona will have a big population in the center of the state, nowhere else. I mean, that's really what it would lead to. And that would be terrible. So, yes, sir.
Now we're talking water. I just don't understand the logic behind swimming pool water going down the street off into a wash and evaporating. Why I reclaim mine. I put mine in the sewer because I just can't justify 10,000 gallons of water going down the street. Now, you do say that you have problems with that in your reclamation process, but you got to come to this. How can we lose that much water? Everybody cleans their pool. It's clean, chlorinated water. And it goes down the street, starts down the wash, and evaporates. Now, that water put into the sewer comes to you, and it gets reclaimed and reused. It just seems to me like millions and millions of gallons of water a year, maybe not millions, but hundreds of thousands of gallons a year go down the street. When it's good, clean, chlorinated water that could be reclaimed and reused, how do we justify that? I did read the rules that you have to put it in the sewer.
Correct. You got to notify.
But there's a lot of issues on when you should and shouldn't drink. That's good water that we're wasting. Why do you do that?
If they notify us and we're prepared for it, we're happy to take it.
It's crazy to use that kind of water.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Oh yeah, okay. I know what's that.
It's like NASCAR, you break the flag, it goes in, because you got the traffic moving so fast. I sit there with my
Yeah, now, you know, we have that issue at a lot of different places, and the fact is you can't. The question had to do with coming out of, I guess, instead of just picking one street, a T section where you're trying to cross the busy lanes like on a coma or whatever, and that is a common problem, not just in our city but anywhere, and you know, some people would say the solution is put a stoplight at every intersection. That's gridlock. Nobody's going to get anywhere. So I understand it. I wish I could tell you we have a great solution, but I don't. I mean, that's just.
Lights actually drive out of that intersection. I can't creep out there. I have to roar out of there because she won't drive the car.
Yeah, no, I hear you. So, June. Okay.
A lot of my friends, they are ignorant to the fact of what Prop 409 really means to the city.
Right.
In their minds, they say, well, that was a reason why there was a cap when the city put a cap on spending. So now if this is passed, well, there's not going to be a cap if the city is going to spend. How can people that have an understanding like that get more informed?
Okay. Okay, the question was the impact of Prop 409, which is the expenditure limitation. I guess there's some folks that say, well, the reason you have that limit is so you don't spend too much money as a city. The fact of the matter is, the difference is, for us, that expenditure limitation, when the law passed in 1979, we were incorporated in 1978. In 1979, when the law passed, we had 0 parks, none. We had 3 fire stations, I believe, limited amount of police. We didn't have a water treatment facility. Sewer, pretty much non-existent. So, for those who say, well, I don't want them to spend any more, that's fine, but we're exceeding that limitation as we speak. It would mean we would reduce all of those services. So if that's what they're looking for, they should vote no. If they want a reduction in parks, reduction in police, reduction in fire, treatment facilities that maybe work sometimes and not others, they ought to vote no. But in a year from now, they're going to ask, why aren't all those things working? But the population back then was 13,000. Well, we have a website so that people can take a look at it, and over the next 6 months, we're going to be educating the electorate about Prop 409. You know, one of the things, and I think David's very versed at this, there's a lot of states that have this expenditure limitation law in some form or the other, and in some states they've realized what a huge mistake it has become, and have reversed it. Arizona does not have that luxury because they put it into the Constitution. But the other thing you might tell the people who say, well, we need those limits, then why did 85% of the cities and towns do either a permanent base adjustment or what they call a home rule? And it's because the law isn't working. If they'd like their tax money to just sit in the bank and do nothing for them, they don't get those policemen they want, the firemen they want. I guess that's up to them. Because if we're collecting that money, I want it to go back to work for our citizens, not sit in the bank. Doesn't make any sense at all. Sure.
Thank you. La Paz County has the same type of issue. When La Paz County is a small county, and just like Graham County, when this went into effect, Graham County was like less than 10,000 people. Of course, Mojave County, but now the population is doubled. So you got 10,000 people in Graham County, and in La Paz County, about 20,000. Well, Grant County kept going back to the ballot to increase the expenditure limit as they were growing. But now, La Paz County never went back to the voters because naturally it's, well, we go back to voters, they're going to say we're going to spend too much. So they never increased that limit. So what happened was they kept spending more to fix the roads, fix potholes, and when they hit that expenditure limit and they exceeded it, that triggered a fine. So that means the state shared revenues withheld. So now they're being fined $2 million, okay, because they exceeded that expenditure limit. Well, La Paz County is very unique anyway because it's checkerboarded with tribal lands. You have a business on tribal land that's not contributing to the state TPT, so you're literally starving the county, starving the city of Parker. So once again, they have a revenue issue, and then of course now that fine's going to get in there. They need that $2 million that's now going to be withheld. I mean, they're squeezing the quarter so much the eagle is screaming. So which means they had to come back to the legislature and ask for us to forgive them, so that way they're not getting fined, but it has to go back to the ballot. And they've never put it on the ballot because they naturally, politicians usually kick the can down the road. County and city managers don't kick that can down the road because it's too volatile of a situation, very complicated to understand. And of course, you'll always have the naysayers going to spin things out of control instead of actually reading the actual legislation or initiative. But like I said, sorry, Mayor, but
No, go ahead.
La Paz County is a perfect example of how you're right. It's not working. It was well intended back in the 1980s when a big sweep across the Southland, Prop 13 in California and everything else. But once again, it literally restricts city government. And I had to use the example of Lake Havasu City. If Lake Havasu City has $35 million sitting in the bank of extra cash, they can't even fix a pothole because they're at that expenditure limit. And by the way, with the public safety retirement system, you couldn't use any of that money to even pay down that debt.
Right.
You had to go borrow money, which is another waste of $400,000 because you're paying interest on that. And by the way, the interest payments go against the expenditure limit. So it's just a bad deal. So that initiative needs to be removed from the state constitution. But actually, if I'm right, Eric, correct me, but if this 409 passes, we're only talking expenditure limit goes up a little bit incrementally each year.
Well, what would happen, it would automatically pretty much double our limit, and then it would grow over time as we grow over time. The other thing you might tell your friends is that, number one, again, it does not impact the amount of taxes they pay. Absolutely doesn't impact it. But we want to maintain the level of services that we have. We don't get credit for all the winter visitors. None. We get no credit whatsoever for that. Again, this is a formula that says by the way, our base, you might tell your friends that are arguing this, our base is $4.7 million. That's it. It grew over, that's how we started. We get to spend a little bit more as the population and inflation increases, but population does not include winter visitors, whether they own a home or not. Doesn't matter. It does not count them. So we're trying to provide services to about 75,000 people, but the calculation says you only get credit for 55,000 people. And so this really has nothing to do with spending or taxes. It's really unfortunate that people want to, as Senator Borelli puts it, spin it out of control, because as this gentleman over here says, we got to make sure we take care of fire and police and pensions. Every time we spend $1 on fire, police, or pension, it counts against us. Every dollar we spend. And then once we go over, Sonny is correct, we will have to give $2.5 million to the state, and the other cities get to spend our money. Why in the heck would anybody say I'd like to agree to that? It does not make any sense. So it's unfortunate that some people are going to spin it that way, but look, all we really want to do, people are telling us we need more police, fire, I'd like to see better parks, improve some parks. We have the money to do it, but can't do it. This is not a revenue problem. It's this dumb law that a lot of states have, and some of them have reversed the law because there's been so many unintended consequences of these kind of expenditure limitations. Jim.
Well, the thing I also tell people that's their responsibility. It controls government spending. It is not a true expenditure limit. It does not control spending. It controls money we have to spend, but we can go over budget and borrow money. That's totally fine.
Yeah, see, that's a great point. What he was saying is that the expenditure limitation really doesn't limit expenditures, and in a way, that's correct. If somebody decides, well, I'm going to vote no, they really just handed this, but I want the same level of service, they handed the city a credit card because credit cards don't count. Debt does not count against your limit. So anybody that votes no must like us going into debt. We don't want to go into debt. We got enough with the sewer project. So, you know, but we will, there is a political action committee that was formed. John Parrott is the president of that political action committee. They're raising money right now. They are moving forward with advertising, talking to businesses. So it's hopefully that will educate a lot of our voters. We got smart voters. It's just getting the word out as to the impact of a yes vote versus a no vote. Dave.
My question is, explain to me, I'm not quite familiar with, we have $40 million in the reserves.
Roughly.
Is that considered reserves?
Yeah, in our general fund.
Okay. Now, if you have that kind of money in the reserve, isn't that going to be a backup in case of emergencies or things that you need that money for?
We always keep, we don't need 40 million in reserves.
But isn't that the idea that we save that money for in case something really happens in the city?
We have what we call they call it a budget stabilization fund. I call it a rainy day reserve.
Yeah.
We already have that, but you don't want it as high as 40 million.
So how much money are you going to take out of that 40 million?
Probably our reserve for the general fund only. We got lots of different funds. You got a water fund, a sewer fund, a highway fund. It goes on and on and on and on. All of those have reserves. But a general fund where your spending is only about 55 million, I think.
55. Yeah.
55 million. You don't want 40 million in reserve. What you probably want is somewhere between 12 and 15. Yeah, so it's just, we knew we wanted to do some of these projects that people have been bugging us about, so to speak. So we said, well, we don't want to go into debt for it. We'd like to just build up over time, and we've built up 40 million bucks. We can pay cash for the Sarah Park renovation. We literally could. Yes, ma'am. The second, yeah, the second bridge, there's never been any funding for it.
There's all kinds of bridges down here in Coca County.
Yeah, and I'm sure ADOT pays for some of those, but the fact of the matter is they don't pay for non-highway bridges. That's a non-highway bridge. That bridge is actually a real bridge underneath the facade called the London Bridge. You can actually walk inside that bridge because I've done it. I wouldn't recommend it. But frankly, not by the city. Yeah, no, the city hasn't raised property tax at all. In fact, we've been lowering the rate. That bridge, that second bridge, in my view, will need to be built over time, but it will probably be a toll bridge, assuming we can do one. A few years ago, we had developers very interested in building that because of traffic flow. And then when the Great Recession hit, they weren't interested anymore. We actually went out and spent $3.7 million to buy the land so the footprint of the bridge could land on it on the island. We paid for that already. But the only way that bridge is going to be successful is that if we're able to connect it directly from 95 as opposed to winding around like you do with the London Bridge. And that has a lot more logistics to it as well. So, yes, sir.
Just to play devil's advocate.
Sure.
In these times. So what if a terrorist gets inside there and blows that bridge up? How do you deal with all the people who live on that island?
I would say we're going to have bigger problems than who people live on the island if a terrorist blows that bridge up. Yeah, but we can get them off the island. Remember, the channel's only about 20 feet across, and we have fireboats, police boats. We can get people off that island if need be. But I'm not suggesting that a second bridge wouldn't be nice. But right now, if you're hearing from developers that the traffic flow doesn't demand it, yeah, I think eventually it should. I've had people say, well, what you ought to do is have a development fee on all the homes that are out there, or there's not going to be a ton of them. That development fee would have to be massive, and not to mention against the law. So, yes.
Do we have a list of, we'd like to do this and that around the city once 409 passes?
We have a very large list of construction projects. Some of them are really kind of nice, like parks, but some of them are basic, improving our water lines, that sort of thing. Improving our roads. Signals are part of it. But Swanson, we'd like to see redone. McCulloch Boulevard needs it severely. We can't do any of those unless that passes.
There might be something to publish. Sorry about the noise.
Yeah, we have a very long list. In fact, we have but we try to put it in need to do, want to do kind of thing. So
Publish that so we all can see.
we do every year. It's called the 5-year CIP. We publish it every year. Well, that's up to the paper. Yes.
My first time here in Havasu was in 1979.
Right.
And I've been coming here periodically since then. In 2014 was when I did the field lately. And in the past, we've always felt that this area has been pristine.
Right.
The desert has. My concern is, 95 working litter. Is anybody, I was late today, I'm sorry. Is anybody here? Does that bother anybody but me?
The question was about litter on Highway 95 and what gets done about it. They have those adopt a highway programs that people do it. The highway does not belong to Lake Havasu City. That belongs to the state, and we can't even pull a weed because we're violating their right-of-way. So what I would say is Highway 95. It's a state highway. So what I would suggest is that put together a group, do a section of Adopt a Highway, and ADOT, I'm sure, will give permission to do that. Mr. Lane, he wanted to comment on it.
Yeah, I just want to comment on that. To what she's having to say. Tomorrow morning from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock, Havasu is cleaning up Highway 95 from Kiowa to Palo Verde North. Because they have that section of highway. There's going to be probably 45, 30 of us out there picking up trash on the highway tomorrow morning. So if you want to come out tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, we'll meet in front of Staples and we're going to pick up trash along the highway.
Isn't just that section?
That's the section of Indianapolis. at Staples parking lot. We'll be meeting at Staples parking lot tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock.
So did everybody hear that? Okay. Yes, sir.
Water quality.
Water quality. Okay.
A couple of years ago, I had concerns about lead. I had some very good discussions with the administration and members of the Recently, I went on the city's website and took a look at the listing of 17 wells and the various federal water quality parameters that are exceeded for each well. Wanted to get more information and looked into it. When I talked to the expert at I got some very interesting information because my understanding is those are now backup wells and the city has a big well on the island for which is basically drawing all the water to serve.
Correct. It's raining well.
Okay, and if you put information about that well on the website.
I'm sure we have it.
I'm sure there is. If not, I'll look at it when I get back.
Thank you.
Yeah. Or reach out to me, and if you have any specific questions, we can address them and talk.
Okay.
Yeah, that water goes through a treatment facility. By the way, when we were talking about 409, and I said we didn't have a treatment facility back then, basically what the city was doing was taking the water out of the lake, throwing some chlorine in it, and putting it in the tap. Maybe that's the no voters. Maybe that's what we could revert to. Chuck.
Yeah, on that spending limit, that 40 million that's in reserve, and we go do some in there.
Absolutely.
Won't you be able to pay down some of the pension responsibilities and stuff that we're behind and stuff on that too?
Yeah, the question is, can you use some of those reserves to pay down the public safety retirement pension liability, the unfunded liability? The answer is yes, we can, but without that law passing, no, we can't. But to just clarify one thing, you said that we were behind on. We are not behind at all. We have made every payment as scheduled and then some. But if the investments don't do as well as they're supposed to, that we don't have any control over, then we get stuck with a higher bill.
6.5 million every year.
What's that?
6.5 million every year.
6.5 million every year. Okay, let's get this gentleman over here.
Yes, I have a question. Does the city have any plans on redoing the city streets, like McCulloch and Havasu Boulevard? I mean, they're absolutely horrendous.
The answer to that is yes, but we can't do it until this proposition we've been talking about, Prop 409, passes in August. The state has, I didn't know how much of this you heard, but the state has put a limitation on us as to spending. They do that for every city and town. We're at that limit because that law went into effect when we were an infant. We had 13,000 people here. If we were to spend that money right now, we would go over the limit. So the answer is yes, we have a lot of road projects. We were just talking about them the other day. McCulloch, Swanson, several others. But we cannot do that until this proposition passes. And by the way, even if it passes on August 28th, we don't get relief until the following July 1st. So it isn't like, okay, on August 29, we can start putting shovels in the ground and fixing a road or doing whatever. You don't get relief until the following fiscal year. So yes, absolutely. We have several projects that are, especially McCulloch downtown area, it's critical.
Yeah, it's awful down there.
Correct. So yes.
What about the tar and the stone for those roads? We noticed last year when they were doing them, there was a couple sacks that were hardly used when they were doing it. It seems like a waste of taxpayer money and labor, and even at the barber shop, even though I go once in a while.
Yeah, me too.
An engineer from Michigan said the same thing. We question why do we do that when there's no need?
We do it based on a rotation, and there is a need. If you're living on that little cul-de-sac, trust me, we hear from them. So there is a need. We test the roads. I think it's called a
PCI.
PCI.
Pavement Condition Index.
Pavement Condition Index. We test, and even if it's a little cul-de-sac, they pay taxes too. They should deserve to.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So that's why we do it.
Okay.
Over the last several years, we've had 3 substantial fires at Body Beach. Now, I understand that's either state lands or...
It is.
Is there any possibility, if we get the statute reversed, that I know the city has long talked about acquiring that property?
Yes, let me address that. I'm shocked that this hasn't come up earlier. So right now, what we have is, as you know, there's been a fire down at Body Beach. We lease 16 acres from Arizona State Trust Lands. That fire was on the southernmost portion of that 16 acres. The other acreage leads up to the skate park, and then there's some of that acreage that's actually where a parking lot is. We got permission from them to do that at Rotary. We intend to buy about 9 of those acres. But we need to get this thing passed to do it. We are working with state lands right now to get written permission, which is required by our lease, to clear the burnt out areas plus any additional areas that we wish to do. We've gotten some criticism that we're using state lands as an excuse of not doing anything. No. If we want to violate our contract and lose that lease, then we ought to go there and just do it right now, because that's what would happen. So we have told state lands time is of the essence. We need your written permission as soon as you can get it. And we'd like to get started next week if we could, but we're not going to put a lease in jeopardy that we've got some improvements on and that we ultimately want to buy. So we are going to be cleaning. We have asked volunteer groups not to go out there. Please do not go out there. We're concerned about what might be in the soil. We're actually going to remove probably a good 6 inches of the topsoil.
Has the fire marshal made any determination of what touched the thing off this time?
No. It's nothing official that I know of. I mean, who knows how it happened. I mean, I could speculate, but I won't do that on TV.
We all know, we just can't say it out loud.
But we want to clear the area out, and don't get me wrong, I appreciate the fact that those volunteers wanted to go out and do something and get it cleaned up, but we're more concerned about their health and safety than anything else. We'll take care of it.
Has Catholic Charities or any of the other groups made any estimation of how many homeless people are actually living down there?
They don't necessarily do in one area. I've heard numbers all over the map because you've got some to the north, some to the south. And people have asked us all kinds of things to do on how to handle the situation. None of them are long-term solutions. This isn't unique to Lake Havasu City. If they can't figure out how to deal with the national homeless problem, I'm not sure we're going to come up with some silver bullet. I've heard suggestions that are from all over the spectrum, including violating their constitutional rights, which we're not about to do. So, too many veterans went to war to make sure our freedoms are maintained, and I'm not going to. And it's not our job to pick and choose which Americans get to enjoy that. Chuck.
Kind of for Sonny, is there any, and I know the legislature's almost over with, is there any talk about possibly putting a bill in about cities and counties that want to buy state land for communities, like parks and stuff like that, at a better price than retail. And is there anything possibly, since this law on this home rule on this thing, we have 15 counties in Arizona, and it sounds like almost every one of them hate it. Is there anything going into the legislature to change that constitutional thing?
So that's an excellent question. In order to change the Constitution, it's got to go back to the voters. It's got to go back to the voters, and we'll examine that and change the Constitution. As a matter of fact, this expenditure limit, it wasn't the states that's doing this to the cities and the counties. That was a citizens' initiative that got put on the ballot and changed the Constitution. So in order to go after the state trust land, that's got to go back to the ballot. It's going to be a challenge, but the first people who are going to get the money out of that is going to go to schools. That's what it's reserved for.
Well, and I think on the state trust lands, you would actually have to get a congressional change, because the way that works was in the Arizona Constitution in 1912, based on Congress declaring us a state. So you would have to have congressional changes to be able to sell Arizona state trust lands at less, for public purpose, for less than best and highest use. I mean, we don't like paying $3.7 million to put the footprint of a bridge on 6 acres. How useful is that? But and when we try to buy out the lease that we've got on Body Beach and part of Rotary Park, that's not going to be cheap. They are required to sell it at best and highest use, and it goes to auction.
Halfway on the island, the walkway on the island, that's another one.
Right. So now we wish that there was something different for public purposes. Unfortunately, it doesn't exist today, and it would take congressional action to change the law. What time is it, by the way? 9:15. All right, we got 15 minutes. Yes, sir.
So, has anybody done any research on the trash cans that you guys are, new trash cans? The lids are extremely heavy, and the wind, if you're laying them up against the side of the wall, and the wind catches it, your hands in there, you're going to break your hand. So I'm trying to save the city some money by, if they've not done the research, by investigating that and saying, hey, wait a second, what can we do to fix that problem? If somebody's going to get hurt.
Well, I'm not sure how you fix the problem of opening the lid and closing the lid. I mean, you've got to be able to do it.
It's not that simple when the wind.
Right. Yeah.
The lid and the wind hits it right. If you're an older person, it's coming out your hand. If you have your hand in the trash can, putting your trash in, it's going to come down on it. I've already checked it, and I mean, it's done it to me.
Okay.
So,
well, these cans are used all over the United States. So all I can do is tell you, we'll ask the general manager to see if there's some other use, but these cans are used all over the United States. All over the United States.
All right, I'm just saying that.
Okay, I understand.
I'm just looking at saving some money for the city.
Okay. That's always a good thing. Chuck.
What I was thinking about doing on mine is taking and putting a stick, hold it open, just stick the stick in there until I'm done, and then we'll take it out. Can you give us an update on the senior thing that they're putting on Swanson and on Curio?
It's moving fast. That's the Independent Living Center that's next to ASU, and it's the only update I got is that it's moving quite quickly, so which is a good thing. I don't on a construction project that city is not involved in. That's about all the information I've got. Unless Greg, you've got anything.
Yes, it's moving very fast. All the inspections are passing. You probably saw the floor for the first level has been poured. The plumbing is being installed for the second floor, and probably in 2 weeks or at the end of this month, you'll see the wood framing going up.
So in 3 weeks, the wood framing's going up. Do you know what the estimated completion date is?
I do not.
Yeah, I thought it was about a year from now, but I could be wrong. Mike. Correct. Right, yes. What Mike was saying is that the marketing agent for that independent living center was opening up an office in April. I do know they're taking deposits. So it's going to be a popular unit, no doubt about it. Oh, the downtown project. The Partnership for Economic Development is currently interviewing stakeholders being people interested in building or investing, etc., including people who might want space, and they're kind of going through that process. It's not just an overnight process because you want to pick the right person, but that's moving along pretty well. So we're hopeful, and they're also beginning, I think, to rent space on their entrepreneur center.
Yeah, yep, they're advancing with that.
Yeah, so the entrepreneur center that they're creating as part of the Vision 2020 plan, they're actually have started improvements on that as well. It's going to be rented space initially. Go ahead, Chuck.
You read me a piece in the paper about a company that wanted to either trade land or wanted to buy land from the school district on Swanson near Tacoma, and they were going to build a 3-story building there. Have you heard anything about that?
The only thing I know about it is the school district felt that it wasn't the right answer for them to make that swap. But since, as you know, the city doesn't operate the school system, that's about all I know on it.
So that'd be the first 3-story that would be on the new plan, right? For the downtown.
Well, Greg, how tall will the independent living? I thought it was going to be 3, 4. So, other questions? Yes, sir. Yes. Possibly. The question is, he's noticed that a Holiday Inn is going up down by the English Village. Yes, that actually will probably be complete around the July 4th weekend. That's their plan anyway. If that is successful, then they have enough room to put another hotel, and if they decide to go forward with that, it would probably be with another partnership as opposed to them doing it on their own. But honestly, we need hotel rooms. Yeah. So we're looking forward to the Holiday Inn being completed because a large transportation convention's coming in October, and we need those rooms. So, yeah, we're glad to see that development take place, and they've done a great job putting in new pavers, landscaping. We're going to be putting in new ballards along the river. They've done lighting. They keep the fountain working, which is nice. So they own all of that property. Yes, sir.
Is there enough parking for the hotels?
For the first one, yes. The second one, they're going to have to come up with a parking solution. if they build the second one. Oh gosh, yes. Oh yeah, before we permit any building or commercial structure, they have to meet the parking requirements and we have to approve them. Absolutely. Sure.
Is there so many spaces per room, like 2 spaces, or just 1 space per room?
Yes, the answer is yes, but I don't know the exact.
I don't know exactly, but it's based on spaces per room, number of employees, and those kind of things.
Yeah. Yeah. So same thing for restaurants, other office space. They have different requirements based on the usage, and they have to show that there's parking available before we allow them to build it. So, Chuck.
Yeah, when we were at the opening there at Cypress Park, we were talking to a lady and her daughter, and they were very skeptical about that hotel down there, by London Bridge, and they feel that once that gets done, that they're going to take all of that parking where nobody can even go in there and park and go down to the water. Can you clear that up?
Sure. So the question is, some people feel that once the hotel is done, they'll pretty much close it off to the public to park down there. Well, that's kind of like cutting your nose off to spite your face, because they're renting property to commercial businesses, and if they prevent people from going down there, nobody's going to rent that property. So there will be plenty of parking for that. There's an element of it that they're going to develop more commercial businesses in the area, and all of those will require public parking. So no, they wouldn't. That would be silly on their part. That would be absolutely silly. Jason.
So I just wanted to take a moment and thank you. We lived here 4 years, and each year we found new and fun things for my daughter and my family to do. Specifically this year, new to the table were the trailhead at Sarah Park.
Oh yeah.
It's an amazing trailhead that people are utilizing every day, and my little girl and my family love to utilize that. Cypress Park has been an amazing addition to the city parks. I just want to thank you for the opportunities. My daughter participates in softball. The fields are always adequately maintained. There's concessions that are operated by volunteers. My family loves living here. It's a great place to raise my daughter. And I just want to take the opportunity to say thank you for coming out and doing this.
Oh, you bet.
Available to listen to us and find a safe place for me to raise my daughter.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, we would like to continue some of those developments. You're right, Sarah Park Trailhead is awesome. We had a lot of volunteers help with that, so that was really really cool. A lot of new stuff that just keeps occurring, and much of it is volunteers. I mean, think about the rodeo grounds done by Friends of the Fair. They did the vast majority of that work. So you know it's a great community, a lot of volunteerism that makes it even better. Absolutely. Chuck.
Have you heard any more about any more tenants coming in besides Dunkin' Donuts behind the CDS? And have you heard any more interest on the old
Hastings building, I've not heard any additional interest in that.
We received a phone call earlier this week from somebody interested in the strip mall where Dunkin' Donuts is planning to go, but they wouldn't reveal who they were.
Right. Yeah, that happens a lot because you end up with site selectors and they're not willing to reveal who their clients are. I mean, economic development, whether it be retail or something else, is always such a weird animal because, I mean, we're dealing with a situation right now that piques our interest considerably, and all we know it is by a project name.
Code name.
Yeah, code name. You know, because they don't tell you. And so they put you through a lot of hoops of providing data and making sure that whatever they want to do, they can do it in our town. And we never, a lot of times we don't know who it is until if we're selected. So, but we're working on one right now that I think would be exciting for our city. It's just a matter of, can we accommodate them? And I wish I could tell you who they were, but I don't know. Huh?
High employment?
Yes. Anyone else? I appreciate all the questions. I thank you so much for being here. The next one will be at Streetside Cafe. I think it's May 4th. Is that the first Friday of next month? I hope so. So anyway, Streetside Cafe over on Swanson is our next one. May 4th. Thank you all for being here.